All right, you're good.
Hey everyone, name is Larry Cameron. I'm the Chief Cyber Officer and founder of Paradigm Intelligence Limited. You can contact me in the email or my LinkedIn here, or there's my signal. I'm also the Chief Cyber Officer for the Canadian Centre for Open Source Intelligence. We are a training organization in Canada that trains on open source intelligence. Also, professor at St. Lawrence College. I created the curriculum for both computer forensics and cloud security. Also a trainer for Interpol. One of the notable ones that I worked on is Wika 2. Wika means stop in Swahili. We recovered 700 human trafficking victims and arrested almost 300. Also had 8 engagements with the United Nations, different ones, UNDP, UNODC, in Egypt, Algeria, and different parts of Africa. Trainer at Fort Liberty, or Fort Bragg was renamed back to. So I train on mainly cyber investigations, dark web intelligence, open source intelligence, and blockchain forensics. Also was fortunate enough to train the FBI child exploitation, the human trafficking, and the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Forces. Uh, been on the National Child Protection Task Force for quite a few times, a few years, 7 years, and I was a trainer for the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Forces. There was 5,400 agencies that received 3 of my training courses over a span of 2 years through an OJJDP grant. I'm also Chief Cyber for the Brackus Group, so I get around. Now, this presentation is going to be on blockchain forensics, cyber investigations, and OSINT. And we'll go through these one by one. So blockchain forensics, how to follow stolen and laundered crypto across the blockchain and get it back. Cyber investigations, who is behind ransomware and state-backed attacks and how they operate. There's also open source intelligence we're going to go over using public information to identify people, networks, and places. Now, for each one of these, we're going to go over the people we chase, different cyber criminals, ransomware gangs, hostile nation states, every section. We're going to go over some of the free tools available. Not all law enforcements have budgets, so we're going to go over some of these. And different evidence and sources, real cases, plain examples, and trusted sources you can check yourself. Now, where the numbers come from, we go from official sources first, always. Court records, it could be the FBI, Treasury, and police, or wherever they exist. Trusted crypto data, blockchain figures, it comes from leading analytics firms, could be Chainalysis, Theorem Labs, Elliptic, or one of the others. The source always needs to be named, so different trackers count differently. So each figure shows where it came from. Numbers grow over time. Totals are often revised upward as investigators find more. So we give the year. Different tracing points courts can decide. So blockchain analysis shows the likely owner, strong evidence, but confirmed off-chain as well. Now the threat landscape at a glance. 16.6 billion was reported to the FBI as cybercrime losses in 2024. That was up 33% from the previous years. Now 9.3 billion of that losses tied to cryptocurrency. So the majority of it. 44% of data breaches involved in ransomware. Verizon put that figure in 2025. And about 2 billion stolen by North Korea in 2025, which was a record. Now there's more attacks that's happening lately, but fiat payouts, ransomware attacks jumped 45%, but the total paid held steady. So more victims are refusing to pay, and this is what I always recommend when doing an incident response. You never pay because you could be funding a sanctioned entity. So what that means, you could be open to fines, uh, but essentially you don't want to pay because that's funding their further terrorism. Different hostile states. Oops. For instance, China hides inside critical infrastructure, and North Korea steals crypto to fund the regime. So they're funding their nuclear programs. Laundering crosses blockchain. Criminals now hop between coins and networks so they can use swapping mechanisms, etc. So this section will be going over blockchain forensics. So different tracing fundamentals, heuristics, crypto crime statistics, mixers, bridges, chain hopping. Going to go over some of the landmark seizures for this and case studies. There's free and commercial forensics tools. So we'll go over each one of these. Now, why crypto is traceable? It's a public ledger, public and permanent. Every transaction is recorded in the open forever for anyone to see. So not named, but not anonymous, pseudo-anonymous. So no name, but it's repeated use build patterns that point to a person. The ledger is the evidence. You can retrace where funds went from start to finish, so end to end. Where did they get the funds and where did they spend them, or where are they swapping them? So without a subpoena, you don't need a warrant or production order in Canada. Trails usually end at an exchange. I have traced through exchanges before, but it's rather difficult. That's where they're cashed out and where ID records reveal the owner. So KYC data. You could get driver's license, passport, name, phone number, email, address, list of assets, their transactions, their bank accounts, their IP addresses. The list goes on. So how blockchain tracing works. First, you want to collect all of the data. So ingest full mode data across chains into a searchable graph. Then you do clustering. So clustering, it's a way to link. There's different methods of it, but one of the clustering is basically the private key. So if you have the same private key, then you can generate multiple public keys. That way, that tries to somewhat obfuscate the ownership. But if you group addresses to the owner using spending heuristics, that's one way to kind of cluster those. Now, attribution, you map clusters to exchanges or mixers, different actors, sanctioned entities. Could be a number of ones, but attribution is where blockchain forensics holds its power. Then you want to graph, so trace the hops, splits, merges of the cache, cache out points, and you document it. So you create the intelligence report. This is the part where it helps law enforcement quite a bit. If you're able to get this done prior to engaging them, you're more likely to get action on it. So there's Bitcoin style, like marked bills. So money moves, specific coins you can follow. Every coin keeps an unbroken chain of custody. Coins spent together share one owner. So if you have multiple addresses and you combine them for a transaction, you would own the private keys for each one of those, and that would likely indicate to you as the same owner. So it's the easiest type of crypto to trace. Now, Ethereum style, like bank accounts, each wallet simply holds a running balance, traced by following deposits and funding links. Powers most tokens, stablecoins, and DeFi apps, and it's a little harder, but just as traceable. So again, grouping suspect wallets. You want to group those together so that you know that it's the same owner, and it makes it a lot easier to find patterns. So spent together, you have the same owner. When coins from different wallets are spent in one payment, the same person controls them all, hands down. Follow the change. Like cash, crypto gives change. So it's what's left over in the transaction. Now, this is another method that obfuscates the flow of funds, but it adds it to a new wallet. So you're not keep on spending from the same wallet, but linking one wallet to the next. So it isn't perfect. Different mixing tools and coincidences can mislead the human. So you always need to check results and double check it. 12 million to 5.6 million wallets grouped into far fewer owners in the landmark 2003 study. So it's not always exact science. So 344 real test payments used to label live services. Early change heuristics, false positive rates before refinement, it's around 13%. Now, following the money on a map, you can draw the flow of funds. Software maps, every transfer has a diagram investigators can follow to the cash out point. You got to spot different tricks. So attempt to hide money, leave telltale patterns that stand out on a map. So if somebody's trying to hide the money, they're more likely to stand out. Aim for the exit. The goal is the exchange always, because that's how you're going to identify the criminal, is if you go after the KYC. Run the forensics, trace it to an exchange. Hopefully they're compliant. Hopefully they're not a high-risk exchange. And hopefully they respond to subpoenas, warrants, or production orders. So software does help first. Automated tools flag suspicious paths, so analysts focus where it matters. Different blockchain forensics tools will save you a lot of time. Putting a name to a wallet. Again, there's grouping the wallets. There's the label of services. You add outside clues, and you request the ID. That is the main way where you can identify someone behind it. Crypto crime by the numbers, 40.9 billion. That's illicit volume received in 2024. 4.14% of on-chain activity. So 2.2 billion stolen in hacks across 303 incidents. So 303 different incidents in 2024 amounted to about 2.2 billion. On-chain scam revenue in 2024, like pig butchering, 9.9 billion. So I worked on quite a few of the pig butchering cases, especially in Myanmar. And I mean, there was up to 220,000 victims that were forced to do scams. 63 to 84%. That's the share of illicit volume in stablecoins from 2024 to 2025. So the numbers keep on growing. 2024 rose from 48.9 billion to 57.2 billion, and investigators found more. They're always going to find more because you're not. These are the stuff that's known, and there's a lot of unknown stuff that's not reported. Illicit volume, you got to read the data carefully. Again, the total illicit received was 154 billion in 2025. And 2023 it was up from 24.2. So that's it's an upward year. Would like to start seeing that decrease, but stable coins, they always dominate. You get about 84% of illicit volume in 2025. Sanctions distortion, I mean that's 83.3 billion single token. Like so Russia's A7A5 token alone transacted 93.3 billion. That's more of a sanctions evasion vehicle, not ordinary crime. So this way they can transact with other countries without going into the regular fiat system. That's a way to bypass restrictions. So scam and fraud victims, 150,000 complaints. So that's pretty significant. Victims over 60 lost 2.8 billion. So they target the vulnerable. A lot of the times old people, and the pig butchering, it evolved from cryptocurrency scams to the romance scams, investment scams, and all the other different types of scams. Ransomware payments were quite significant, especially in 2023. That was 1.25 billion. 2024, first annual decline since 2022, which was good. 813.6 million. Now 2025 payments just a little above that. That was 820 million. So the largest single confirmed payments, Dark Angels in 2024, 75 million for a single ransomware payment. It's quite significant. Stolen funds, hacks and exploits. Again, 2023, 1.8 billion. 2024, 2.2 billion stolen. 2025 in the H1 first half, 2.17 billion, but 3.48 billion stolen for all of 2025. North Korea, industrialized crypto theft. So they have everybody, military, Lazarus Group, North Korean military intelligence. They stole around 1.34 billion. That was in 2024. 2.2 billion, 0.2 billion in 2025. Oops, that was up 50%. 1.5 billion in the Bybit hack. 6.75 billion over several years. So theft funds the state. So again, they're paying for their weapons program. Starts with a trick, fake job, booby trap software. Could be many ways, phishing that they're getting in. Then they start to launder fast. So they go to mixing tools, they go to swapping tools, and some has got frozen by stablecoin issuers. Sanctions related and illicit. You see about 15.8 billion sanctions linked, 93.3 billion Russian token, and 2 billion plus Iran aligned. Now, laundering on chain, you'll see different stages, placements. So illicit crypto can enter the ecosystem from theft, ransom, or fraud. Doesn't matter which way. Just multiple ways to do placements. And then layering. So you got the mixers, bridges, swaps. You got peel chains to obscure the origin. You got decentralized finance. And the problem with decentralized finance is you don't have to do KYC if you do decentralized finance. So anybody can ideally just, swap for another coin or token and go out the other end, and nobody knows the better. So integration. So a lot of people use the mixtures that come out and then they'll go into other legitimate type services. One of those is mining. So if you mining new coins, you pay for those miners, you mine them, and then it comes out the other end clean. Same thing with gambling. Sometimes you will have money deposit on a gambling site. You make one bet, you withdraw the money out the other end, tax free, and it's clean. So many different ways to integrate, but 100 billion moved 2019 to 2024, and peak single year was 2023 at 30 billion. So 84% of illicit volume now sits in the stable coins. Now different mixers and tumblers, Tornado Cash, that one was shut down. This was the first one that did extradition, I believe. Sinbad, Blender. Successor was Sinbad, and Helix was about 311 million. I think Tornado Cash was around 1.5 billion. Different ways for laundering: CoinJoin, Wasabi, Peel chains. So CoinJoin, what it'll do is combine many user payments into one transaction. It breaks the sender and recipient link, so it kind of defeats the co-spend. Wasabi's coordinator shut down in June 2024 under U.S. pressure. Different regulatory action like Samurai chilled the ecosystem. We got different peel change. You can take a large sum, and I've seen this with BTC-E when they created peel change in small fractions, and it was over 100 hops. I think I traced it a few hundred hops, but the bulk keeps moving, slivers break off to services, and it's designed to exhaust and mislead a manual tracer. But even manual tracing, uh, if you know what you're looking for, it just takes a lot of expansion. So peel patterns also legitimately. Chain hopping, cross-chain bridges. About 21.8 billion was laundered using these methods, and over a third of investigators now span 3 blockchains. 100 plus times funds bridged between Tron and Ethereum in one observed scam. 20% of cases span 10 plus chains. So it's a new way to hide money. Tracing keeps up, and bridges attract crime. There are some legit reasons would actually, want privacy coins or be able to hide the flow, or, you know, because if you transacted with someone you seen they have $1 million, you theoretically go after them for that $1 million when it's only like 10 bucks. That's just an example. Privacy coins and the delisting wave. A lot of exchanges, they're delisting privacy coins like Monero. So default on privacy, bring signatures, stealth addresses. It's really hard to trace. Zcash, optional shielded Z addressing, uses ZK snarks. Transparent addresses remain fully traceable. Big delisting wave. Nested exchanges and OTC brokers. Hidden shops inside big exchanges. Some small operators, they'll run on top of large exchanges with little or no ID checking. Crooked cash out brokers, a few private dealers quietly turn criminal crypto into cash, no questions asked. Real pressure points, so much money flows through a few exits that targeting them disrupts a lot of laundering. So you got to target those ones that focus mainly on laundering. Dress poisoning. Attacker can mint a look-alike address, matches first last characters, seed victim's history with spoof transfers. Victim copy pastes the wrong address next time. So one campaign, there was 82,000 plus seeded addresses and 68 million near miss. We use dusting attacks. Sometimes law enforcement will do that, sometimes criminals, but tiny amounts, 1 to 500 satoshis, sent to thousands of wallets. Auto consolidation links the dust to real holdings, enables cluster-based de-anonymization, and defense, coin control, UTXO freezing, address rotation, etc. DeFi exploit tracing, flash loans, uncollateralized capital, marshaled inside one transaction. Manipulate. So this is inflate a low liquidity token, distort the price oracle. One time I was able to spend $10 and raise the value of a coin 3,000%. So it's very easy to manipulate if there's low volume. Extract, so borrow against inflated collateral and drain the pool. Trace, follow the exploiter wallet through swaps, bridges, mixers. So this is how you would do decentralized finance. NFT wash trading, stablecoin freezing. Those are two other methods. So NFT wash trading, detective via sales to self-financed addresses, buyer funded by the seller or the seller's funder. 262 habitual wash traders netted 8.46 million. Most individuals, wash traders lose money on gas. Stable coin freezing. So USDT on-chain blacklist, burn and reissue for restitution. USDC blacklists only. So around 30 times less frozen than USDT. USDT 3.29 billion frozen across 7,268 addresses from 2023 to 2025. Now that's pretty significant that you're able to actually, kind of freeze a token, blacklist it, burn it. This is how we're going to combat the crime. Bitfinex hack, there was a $3.6 billion seizure, 119,000 Bitcoin stolen from Bitfinex. 2022, 3.6 billion seized. So chain hopping, exchanges, darknet, privacy coins. Forensics allows you to reconstruct all of that. Guilty plea, 5-year and 18-month sentences. Colonial pipeline. So when you get hit by ransomware. So we got a timeline here, May 7, 2021. So forced to shut down the largest U.S. pipeline. 75 Bitcoin was paid as ransom. So the FBI traced the ransom across public blockchains to a specific wallet within weeks. The DOJ, Department of Justice, was able to seize that with a warrant. Now, precedent was set there that on-chain transparency makes ransom proceeds recoverable, a template for later clawbacks. Lazarus Group, Ronin to Bybit, they are responsible for so many hacks. 173,000 Ethereum. The Atomic Wallet, there was 100 million. Bybit, 1.5 billion. That was a record at the time. Mixers, bridges, OTC, all different ways where you can hide or obfuscate the flow of the funds or try to cash out. For Tornado Cash, there was sanctions put on them. Now, I kind of like sanctions when you're dealing with nation state or other criminal organizations that don't care. It's a way to make their life more difficult, especially if they're trying to transact. So they have to be creative and find ways to get around that. Now, founders indicted, developer convicted. Fifth Circuit, immutable code isn't property. So the OFAC overstepped on that. So Storm, partial verdict, convicted of money laundering conspiracy. So that was in August 2025. Darknet takedowns, like Hydra. Hydra was taken down in 2022. Bitzlato was taken down January 2023. Here's more information on those. These are just historical cases. Now we're going to go over free and open source blockchain forensics. There's software like Block Scout. That's one software you can use. Etherscan, that's one I use a lot. Breadcrumbs, the founder, great guy. GraphSense, Arkham Intelligence, Mistrack. So there's plenty of different free software you can use in order to trace the funds, do blockchain forensics, cryptocurrency asset tracing, different commercial blockchain analytics. You got the regular ones, Chainalysis, Theorem Labs, Elliptic, Merkle Science, Elementus, formerly CipherTrace was big on the market. Crystal Blockchain, Arkham Intelligence, plenty. So investigation workflow, scope and seed, establish the seed addresses, apply heuristics, and you trace the flows, you attribute it, then there's legal action and documentation. Again, this is the basic workflow for any investigation. Now, getting blockchain evidence to hold up, heuristics is not proof. So probabilistic cortex stated confidence levels and a document methodology, not black box conclusions. Reproducibility matters. Another analyst would be able to follow the same chain path and reach the same result. Chain of custody, record data sources, tool versions, and time stats for every pivot in the investigation. And it needs to be corroborated off-chain. So exchange records, seizures, testimony for a complete case. So you need end-to-end in order to be successful. So key takeaways: transparency is the weapon. Laundering went cross-chain. Nation state dominates theft. Seizures are real and growing. Rigor wins in court, and free tools get you far. So you don't have to pay tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to be able to investigate cryptocurrency crime. Now we're going to go over any cyber investigations. And Jackie, is there a chat here? Is there any questions before I move on?
No, I think we're all good, Larry. You can continue.
Okay, perfect. So part 2, we're going to go over cyber investigations. Let me try to move these windows. So how ransomware business works. So different major gangs and the takedowns, different state hackers, how the attacks actually happen, and different supply chain incidents we'll go through. $16.6 billion reported cybercrime losses in 2024. So we had almost 900,000 complaints filed in the Internet Crime and Complaint Center, IC3. That's run by the FBI. So 48 minutes is the average e-crime breakout time based on CrowdStrike data. 79% of detections were malware-free. Hands-on keyboard. So we have a mature specialized market. We now have ransomware as a service. Speed is the new normal. So lateral movement from first host was 51 seconds. So once they infect your machine, they're pivoting inside your network within 51 seconds. So identity is the front line. Most of them are malware-free, valid credentials, social engineering, not exploits. So they are getting the passwords, getting access without even infecting you now. Ransomware is an industry. You have the makers, you have the attackers, you have the access sellers, you have different leak sites, you have launderers, and you have negotiators. This is an ecosystem that is very dangerous because you have people that specialize in each. Ransomware for hire or ransomware as a service. You have the people that build the malware. You have the people that rent it out to the attackers and they recruit. Now the attackers that get in, once they get in, then they can run the build. Then they start the extortion. So some of them could be, there was one up to over $70 million. So again, don't ever pay because they do double extortion now, and you do not want to pay twice. One will to decrypt your data, two will be not to release it, and they might even throw in another one. And again, there's not even any real guarantee you're going to get your data back after you pay. So there's no honor among thieves. Again, double, triple extortion. Lock the file, steal the data, pile on the pressure. And 74% of attacks now involve stealing data, not just locking it. So they want to get that data, they want to release it, they want to 50% of 2025 attacks actually locked files. That's low after 6 years. 44% of victims stopped the attack before files were locked, which is good. This is why it's important to have a proper cybersecurity program. So you have penetration testing, vulnerability management, threat hunting, security operations center, etc. So people who sell the way in. So a break-in ready to buy. Some criminals specialize in selling stolen logins. You'll have tons, like databases and databases of PayPal logins on the dark web, for instance, or Microsoft Office 365. So it's cheap and easy, prices down, $2,000 for most, sell for under $1,000 to get access. Western firms in demand. US, Brazilian, French companies are the most sought after. It's a booming market, cheap network access, keeps flooding criminal forums, feeding the ransomware machine. So people will get access one way or another, then they'll sell it to the ransomware folks. Ransomware by the numbers, you had over 7,300 victims in 2025. That's quite significant. 138 active ransomware groups in 2025. 1.13 million is the average payment. So 44% of breaches involved ransomware. So mind and methodology, again, on-chain analysis, higher caseload, breach corpus, enterprise survey. They measure different things, but never blend them. SMBs bear the brunt of it. So they target small business because they have less security. Most active crews, there's a few of them here at the bottom, but Keelan, Akira, Clop, Play, and Inc. Fewer victims are paying. And this is what I always like to promote. Do not pay. So why is there a decline? Most people have better backups. There is cyber insurance scrutiny because who wants to pay for insurance if you may or may not get breached? And there's a lot of requirements now to getting cyber insurance. You have to go through different testing. Could be SOC 2, could be like PCI, could be different compliance frameworks. Extortion adapts as encryption pays less. Crews lean harder on data theft, only extortion and harassment. Leak sites and ecosystem fragmentation. So naming as leverage. So they publicly list the victims in order for everyone to view, the public, and they can also obtain the data. They double the pressure points, 46 new ransomware groups. It's doubled in 2023 as extortion crews multiplied. Takedowns, fragments, not ends, dismantling, different Lockbit and Alpha V dispersed affiliates into Ransom Hub, then Krillin, then Dragon Force. But I'm actually working on one with a Dragon Force affiliate now, and we were able to save the data. So we go and we disable the cloud backup that they use, and the vendor was very cooperative, and they shut it down. We confirmed that it wasn't transferred anywhere else. So, I just did a dark web search and I started seeing their passwords released on the dark web, but at least we saved their data. Ransomware group landscape. Again, Lockbit, Black Cat, Clop. There's a lot of different orgs out there. There's a lot of different sites that'll show you the different orgs. They'll show you the decryption tools. They'll show you the ransom notes. They'll give you IOCs like file hashes, IP addresses, domains, dark websites. Noticing a lot of groups using Talk, which is a communication software. Uh, Lockbit and Operation Chronos. So it's a prolific ransomware as a service. 2,500 120 cases. Uh, so they seized 34 servers. So they got the decryption keys. Leader was unmasked, and personal haul. So alleged to have taken 100 million in affiliate fees personally. That's quite significant. Black Cat and Change Healthcare. So Rust-based ransomware as a service from the MITRE, if everyone's familiar with the MITRE attack framework. 22 million ransom, 4 terabytes stolen. There was a big disruption in prescription and claims, fake FBI seizure banner, and they just vanished. So there was an exit scam. So affiliates, again, they migrate to Ransom Hub. So this one was a different model for CLOP and the mass MFT. Uh, Skips the broad encryption, mass exploits, managed file transfer software, and they do just pure data theft. So the move it vulnerability. So this is where supply chains get infiltrated. Uh, Different exploits with the same and extort playbooks. So now they're creating playbooks for extortion. So they have different shells where they have custom tools that they integrate into environment and they just exfiltrate data. Social engineering at scale. So who is Scattered Spider? English speaking collective, masters of the human layer, so human intelligence, social engineering, the help desk impersonations, multi-factor authentication fatigue, push bombing, SIM swapping. Oops. So they will take, they'll clone the SIM card and they will get the text and SMS. That's one way. And forcing close-in. Noah Urban sentenced to 10 years. So 15 million reported paid by Caesars alone, 115 million in ransoms tied to the group, and 10 years sentence. So this was pretty significant as well. Emerging and high volume crews. Akira, there's about 244 million in late 2025. They target small business. Uh, a lot of companies did not upgrade their firewalls, like their Sonic Wall or their Cisco ASA, and they were able to get in through the firewalls. VMware, that's virtualization of servers. They can exfiltrate within 2 hours. So they exploit the VMware server, they get in there and they exfiltrate the virtual machines, which is entire servers at once. Uh, about 900 entities for PlayCrypt. It recompiles its binary, attack with unique hash. Now 40OS is another firewall. So similar to Sonic Wall or Cisco ASA, we have FortiOS, uh, Ransom Hub, again, X Cyclops, Knights. A lot of the ransomware groups, they moved to Ransom Hub, and that's more of a collective now. Um, So they do so as double, triple extortion. So they try to get you on, we'll unlock your data. That's one way. Another one is we won't release your data. That's another way. And then they'll find some other way. Uh, so double, triple extortion, they just keep on harassing you constantly. So this is why you never pay because one, you don't know if you're going to get your data back. And two, they could just ask for more money. Black Suit, there's two other ones. Black Basta, 500 victims. Black Suit, uh, total demands are about 500 million. Largest single demand was 660 million. So they take the codes, the code of another ransomware provider, and they modify it and they rebrand it. There was Operation Checkmate in July 2025, which seized the site's servers and the cryptocurrency. There was a bunch of takedowns in 2024, 2025. Operation Kronos, Lockbit, Operation Checkmate. So they seized leak sites, 4 servers, 9 domains, and 1 million in crypto. And then there was different arrests with Scattered Cyber or Spider. Multiple different takedowns over 2 years, which is good because if you don't take them down, they're going to keep doing it. We want to make it more expensive to operate for ransomware groups and less payouts so that they stop doing it at scale. So main hackers or the nation state sponsored groups, APTs, are from Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. Those are the four main. Um, there was actually some people from Russia and China that were deploying it. They were putting in an exception. So for Russia, they would put in a check for a Russian language pack. And if that language pack was installed, then it wouldn't execute. Now they did this because they didn't want, well, Putin to come down on them and probably kill them. But, same thing with China. You know, there's less enforcement if you're not attacking your own country. So this is why they put these language packs. You could probably avoid majority of ransomware by having Russia and China language packs installed on your computers. Russian state actors, I won't go into these much, but APT 28, 29, 44, these are just different advanced persistent threats. So we do this in malware, we do this in ransomware, and different groups that nation state, they attack other countries. And this is more in the cyber realm. You're not going to see it too much in blockchain forensics. People aren't fully aware of all these. Now, APT 29, again, the supply chain, that's it's a major compromise. So SolarWinds, it was a management software MSP. Uh, for instance, I would have SolarWinds or other technical consultants might have SolarWinds that manage customer environments. So they can they Trojanize something sent to 18,000 customers. Microsoft corporate email breaches, uh, signed RDP config spear phishing. RDP, which is like remote desktop protocol. It's how you can connect to a server on a network and view their screen. So like terminal services. This method was highly vulnerable throughout the years. There's plenty of ways to hack it, exploit it, but you basically get access to the internal systems by opening a port, not requiring VPN or access control lists. Different tradecraft, stealth, patience, and cloud focus. I mean, you have MITRE ATT&CK framework, if you know that. There's different TTPs, which are techniques, tactics, and procedures that you use in order to do stealth or evasion of antivirus, or you could do timing, you could do sandbox detection. There's a lot of ways where you can evade detection, and they employ these with their software. So, they can wait for the right moment, come up for air, and then lock the environment, get remote access to it. Highly risky. Disruption and destruction. So some of them are really aggressive. They will lock your environment. They will delete your backups. They will render all your servers unusable. So they were formerly APT 44, Bad Pilot subgroup, Microsoft exposed an initial access team operating across 15 countries to enable follow-on attacks. So they get access and they provide it to some other group, similar to tailored access operations. Different Chinese state actors. Again, there's no shortage of them. Uh, Volt Typhoon, they were unique when they were pre-positioning in critical infrastructure. Now, it's not really espionage, but it's pre-positioning. So they're living off the land. They have built-in tools, valid accounts, almost no malware, and they evade detection for years. 5-year dwelling, persistent measured in years. Remember, some of them, I think the minimum was 8 months before they're even detected. Uh, but that wasn't Volt Typhoon. This was anybody. Volt Typhoon, again, they worked on persistence. They would persist in the environment for a long period of time. They can attack them. Cell Typhoon, they were inside the telecommunications companies, so very strategic access. They reached wiretap systems, and there was something about this lately that came out with the I forget who, but it was SS7. Their lawful interception. They were able to track military on the ground. So the U.S. looks like they were monitoring their military personnel, his phone, and that got compromised, and they were able to track the military on the ground, which again is not good. DPRK, so North Korea. Uh, I have no shortage of cases with Lazarus Group, majority of crypto threats. And here's some other ones. Again, there's plenty for each nation state. There's no shortage of different groups or APTs. There was a lot of IT worker schemes. So they would, get jobs as an IT worker, and they would be on the inside. They would get some people to act as a jump point. So people would get employed, and the DPRK would have remote access to the computers. There's a nationwide crackdown. 100 U.S. companies were affected, including Fortune 500 firms. So one of them generated about $5 million in insider access. This is a big risk when you're hiring. So you always need to do proper due diligence, KYC. Different Iranian ones. So they have different back doors, a lot of different encryption so that they can't see what communications going out. To target universities, researchers on Middle East affairs. They have quite a bit of phishing and credential theft, espionage, intellectual property theft. So MITRE ATT&CK framework, that's a shared language. So again, you have the tactics, techniques, different procedures. So behavioral based indicators. Uh, so you want the entire intrusion life cycle. So initial access, when they get access to your network, or execution, when they execute the malware, persistence, how they stay in there, exfiltration, so how they get the data out. Those are all different tactics that you need to have protection in at all levels. Otherwise, it's going to be fairly easy to compromise your network. So behavioral based indicators, it maps everything together. If your organization doesn't know about the MITRE ATT&CK framework, I'd highly recommend that you look into it. So initial access and execution, how are they going to get into your network? It could be based on email, it could be based on internet, but those are two ways in and out of your network. Or it could be physical, it could be plugging in a USB stick. That's why we would disable them. Same thing with CD-ROMs. You don't want to have auto run enabled because once you put that in, it's going to infect your computer. Uh, Phishing is a big way. Exploit a public application using valid accounts. So always make sure you have the multi-factor, not always the text swapping. They can apply that. Supply chains are another attacks, different scripting or external remote services, another way, like the RDP I was talking about, like not updating your firewall. Persistence, privilege escalation, and evasion. Again, these are some things that you need to be aware of. The one that I just did for the Dragon malware group, the privilege escalation was something I focused on for remediation. If they don't have administrative rights, if they can't escalate those privileges, then they're not going to be able to install. They're not going to be able to persist, and they basically get locked out. So a lot of the time, endpoint detection and response, they'll kill your antivirus. If you see that it's not starting up, that could be why. You have malware that's constantly shutting down your antivirus. Uh, System binary process execution, run DLL, MSI exec, using legitimate software services on Windows in order to install and communicate and bypass. User account control, they elevate their privileges, they get the malware installed, they maintain persistence and obfuscation. So they make it so some of your stuff can't be detected. So they'll encrypt it or they'll encode it. They'll pack it in a different thing. They will have dynamic hashes so they can't detect the hash. There's plenty of different ways to hide. And you don't want malware hiding in your systems. Oops. So the local security authority dumping. They harvest credentials. So if you save credentials in your browser, for instance, you don't have a password manager, they can actually dump all your credentials at one. There's also different files that hold some of your credentials, different password spraying. I've seen attacks of 290,000 passwords just this last week, where they're password spraying, they're trying uh default accounts and passwords. They're trying ones that you found on the dark web. They're finding ones that they dumped on computers. So that'd be the first one. RDP, again, interactive. They can move from computer to computer using, RDP, and that allows them to see their screen. SMB and PS exec, so they're able to view different shares or file shares on your computer, even see $, which allows you to see every single file on the computer. PS exec, that's remote process execution, different tool transfer. So they move host to host. Again, lots of different ways where you can obfuscate or relay commands. Lateral movement is one of the most risky things after persistence that happens. Command and control, different exfiltration and impact. Again, there's different command and control frameworks, ingress tool transfers, exfiltration to the cloud that's getting your data, even like Mega or Dropbox or OneDrive or the Backblaze, or there's tons of different ones. Exfil over command and control, stage and siphon data back through existing command channels. So if they're commanding and sending their commands that are encrypted to, one of your machines that has a compromised machine, then they're able to exfiltrate that and you won't even be able to see it. Encrypt for impact. So the ransomware payload, it can shut you down for weeks or months. And they try to inhibit recovery. So they're deleting your backups, they're rendering your servers useless, etc. So some of the bad ones, supply chains, again, SolarWinds and Kaseya, those are both kind of management apps for multiple customers. RMM, which is remote monitoring and management. That was 1,500 businesses at the same time. Different kill chains, pyramid of pain. I go by mainly the cyber kill chain. So there's different reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, install, command and control, and different actions or exfiltration. Then there's diamond model, there's pyramid of pain. Um, so instant response lifecycle. We'll go over that a little bit. We got about 20 more, 20, 30 slides left. Uh, Preparation. So people, tooling, playbooks, logging. So you got to make sure that you have proper monitoring in your network. Detection analysis, identify scope triage, containment. You got to contain the malware. Do not allow persistence. Different recovery, restore services, safely invalidate the environment is clean. And then you got to do a lesson learns after that. So ransomware, primary payments is always cryptocurrency. So you always want to do blockchain forensics on that, report it to the IC3, uh, contact the FBI. Goal is to take down these ransomware groups. Different cyber investigation takeaways. Crime is a service economy. Extortion shifted to data. Nation state preposition. TAC is the language. And these are things that we went over during the cyber investigations one. So identity is the battleground. This is how they get in. And frameworks that you use will create clarity. Now, this is the end for the cyber investigations. Is there any questions on that before we proceed? All right, we'll move on to the open source intelligence. So in this section, intelligence cycle and disciplines, operational security and sock puppets and ethics. We'll go over some more of the free tools and investigation walkthroughs and threat intelligence levels and workflow. In just one moment. All right, so we'll go over open source intelligence. Apologies, I had a call there. We're going to go through a little of this. So, what is open source intelligence? It's a discipline. It's not a search box like Google. That's what most people think it is. You search for the data, you get the information, which becomes intelligence. Everything is legal because it's open. You're allowed to search, you're allowed to do lookups if you have access. That's n not a problem. So it fuses other intelligences like social, geospatial, imagery, financial intelligence, like blockchain forensics, for instance. Intelligence cycle, you need the direction, define the requirement. So what question are you trying to answer and why? Now, second, you do the collection of this data. So you gather from open sources against the plan, could be broad, then targeted. Then you process it, translate, decode, deduplicate, structure the raw data. Then you do the analysis, you assess, corroborate, and produce graded intelligence. So how valuable is each piece of intelligence? Dissemination, delivered to the decision maker. Feedback restarts the loop. So then you switch back to direction. So different sub-disciplines, SOCMINT. This is social media intelligence, so different accounts, posts, networks. You got the geospatial intelligence, which is satellite, aerial imagery, mapping, and terrain. You got the IMINT, which is more imagery intelligence. So you analyze the photo, the metadata, the EXIF data, different video content. It overlaps a little with GeoINT. Financial intelligence, on-chain flows, corporate records, You got anti-money laundering, counter-terrorist financing, sanctions, adverse media, court cases, watch lists, ICIJ papers or leaks. There's tons of different special interest persons, criminal record checks. There's tons of different financial intelligence that you can add. Cybint, techint, so technical intelligence could be infrastructure, devices, certificates, malware, could be many different things, IP addresses, domains, data point exploitation. And then there's human intelligence. This is probably one of the most costly. So you have humans in the loop, on the ground, doing human intelligence. Again, it could be also forum posts, self-disclosed identity data. The OSINT framework and toolkits. I think it's osintframework.com. You can go to this website. It's tree of resources from data type. So you have usernames, emails, domains, IP addresses, images, social. Uh, you can have multiple different other data points. There's dozens of them. Different Bellingcat toolkits, Intel techniques. Verify the liveness of the data. So sometimes directories can go stale. You'll never find really a stale email address unless it's been shut down. But sometimes you might find a stale phone because there's different APIs or different systems you can look up the last disconnection date. And this is where, similar to IP addresses, IP addresses can change and be dynamic. So you always want to make sure that the time lines up with, it could be data that you'll receive on the IP address or the phone number, that it's the right person and the right time that you're looking for. So there's always an extra layer of validation with that. Emails, I don't find there's ever a problem unless, somebody at a company maybe deletes or, someone gets fired or something, and then a new person comes in with the same first initial last name. But that's not likely to happen in these cases. It's very rare. Operational security and sock puppets. You never really want to investigate someone with your own accounts. You always want to use fake accounts. Now, you'll notice sometimes if you use Facebook here, you'll notice the suggested friends. That can happen. Even if you look at someone's profile, you'll start popping up there and they'll be wondering, hey, why is this person looking at me? Or they might be able to connect you to somebody else. Uh, it's very risky. So for operational security, always use sock puppet accounts. So you have a different research persona, consistent backstory, dedicated email, separate browser profile, even a virtual machine you don't want to cross-contaminate. Isolate the identity, dedicated hardware, isolate networks, use a VPN, etc. It's because you can fairly easily be de-anonymized, and you do not want that to happen. Legal and ethical guardrails, stay within the law. Privacy law does apply in some cases. Before you scrape sites, always do the terms of service. Minimize the harm. Keep in mind chain of custody for the evidence. You don't want to lose that chain of custody. I know Hunchley used to be really good for that. You create screenshots of it. And then always have a grade of confidence. Here are some different recon and footprinting. Maltego, Spiderfoot, the Harvester, Recon NG, the OWASP, CRT.sh. So that's a certificate transparency search. And I kind of like that. So sometimes you can find old certificates that'll bring you to a clue, maybe if a site was shut down or for different reasons. Here's some other infrastructure and search intelligence. I personally love Shodan. It had a way to look up SSH keys. And what I was doing on the dark web, we were creating databases of SSH keys on dark web servers because there was no reverse lookup. So what we would do there is search an SSH key, see all the dark web servers it was connected to, then we'd pivot to Shodan and see what IP addresses it was connected to. So we were actually able to pinpoint a lot of dark web servers based on Shodan. So very, very good API. So people's social username, there's plenty of different ones. What's my name.app I used quite a bit. EPOS, which actually includes Holahi, a lot of different ones, even but what's my name.app, I think it does quite a few of them. And this is username reuse. So let's say in my LinkedIn, if I have linkedin.com/in/Larry Cameron 80, I might have that on Instagram, I might have that on Facebook, and you'll be able to see my other accounts. Even my GitHub, you'll be able to see based on searching Larry Cameron 80 what it is, and it matches them up. And you need to do an extra level of validation there. Again, you don't want to, see another person. Usually there's a visual confirmation with a picture that you can link them or an email address or phone number or, you know, could be many different things. Let's see. Have I been pwned? Dhash Intelligence X. I really like Have I been pwned. It's free. So you can just basically look up emails and phones and see if they were involved in any breaches. This helps with subpoena warrant production order targeting. You know that they have an account there, so you don't just blindly submit these requests. Uh, you are targeting. So it's more efficient, I find. Images, geolocation. You'll see tons of reverse image searches. I mean, Google has it, Yandex, which is pretty good. Uh, I noticed Yandex was probably the best because Russia don't care about privacy sometimes. EXIF tool. This is file metadata. There's different ones. Google Earth, Sentinel browser, Bellingcat has some pretty good methods. Domain who is in history. Again, plenty different ones. Security Trails is probably my favorite for um, historic DNS and subdomains. So you can see, oh, well, they initially bought it at GoDaddy, then they moved to Amazon, then they moved to Google. And you can do this for all the different domain records. It could be A records for web host, an MX record for email, or name server records. Domain tools, pretty expensive. Uh, so I think it's cert.sh census. We could actually trace servers behind Cloudflare, that and security trails. Those are your best options for finding a site behind a proxy. Uh, Pivoting from a phishing domain. You want to do many different things. The who is, so get the registration information. Maybe you might go to breach data because the who is databases was hacked. There's passive DNS, so you check out the historical. Where was that record before it was switched? TLS certs. Pivot. This is how you de-anonymize behind Cloudflare, host and favorite icon. So if you look at a web browser and you see this little icon in the bottom left, you do it when you go to Google, it'll have a unique icon. So these are usually hashed, and you can tell if you hash enough of them, you'll be able to see which ones match up to the same file. So mostly they have generic uh, generic ones for a company that they'll just upload and reuse. Username identity correlation, plenty of different ways. Again, you enumerate, you find it. If it's a username, again, use what's my name.app, avatar and bio, their reverse image searches. extract their emails. So with their accounts, what's email do they use? Check breach data, and then you confirm and grade. But I like breach data. I like, EPOs. Those are plenty of ways where you can dig deeper into an identity. Now, there's different strategic, operational, and tactical. So business, geopolitical risk for executives, who, why, and where trends are heading, campaign or actor level. You'll find that, again, we spoke about the techniques, tactics, procedures, the tooling intent, the SOC leads, threat hunters, when they're hunting for these types of malware or persistence or, even doing blockchain forensics. Tactical, again, they're more IOCs, hashes, IPs, domains, etc. OSINT for blockchain forensics. Etherscan, I find it's one of the best ones where you can get the labels for free. Uh, most are expensive. Oops. Different bridge on-chain to off-chain, leaked email addresses, reused usernames. Those are helpful. Social and darknet chatter. Again, social media intelligence, dark web intelligence. That's, I mean, I even had data sets where I was collecting all this text from dark web sites. We had hundreds of thousands. This is how we're able to do that reverse lookup with the, certain things like the SSH keys or Google Analytics codes we were using. And then you fuse all the data and see what's valid. You can validate usually every data point on multiple levels. Multigo, great app, recorded future, expensive. I mean, you got Palantir. I mean, who can afford that? I mean, I used Flashpoint in the past, but there's different ones like Babel Street, Cobwebs. That's where you use the ad tech, Celebrate Magnum forensics applications. Uh, Constella Intelligence is probably one of the best for breach data, I find. And chain analysis, they're the most people use them, like different entities, like government. Building an OSINT investigation. Here's the steps you want to follow. Again, define. Make sure you have high operational security. You collect all the data, you corroborate it, you analyze it, and you create your report. Kind of go through these steps. Uh, that's probably the most efficient methodology. Key takeaways: discipline over dabbling. OPSEC first always. Don't compromise your identity. Free tools can be world class. Now, reuse reveals identity. Stay lawful and ethical. Fusion wins. So, implement your cyber, implement your blockchain forensics, implement your open source intelligence. If you use these multiple layers, then you're more you're more likely to, find the bad actor, get your money back, trace the funds, find out the identity and de-anonymization. And we have a few slides left. But the investigator's toolkit, digital forensics and memory, malware analysis, reverse engineering, threat intel detection engineering, uh, free stacks, program building synthesis. This is more for, cyber teams or hunters, but we'll go over it quickly. Autopsy, volatility, Velociraptor, Cape, Wireshark. This is packet capturing. So these are some of the tools for incident response. Again, for threat intel and detection engineering, because you don't just want to trace the funds, you don't just want to get the money back, but you want to take down the bad actors. You want to be able to provide attribution on the blockchain level, on the identity level, on the software level networks. Uh, your different ones for cyber, threat intel, detection engineering. Security Onion's pretty cool. It's open source too. If you're looking for some free stuff, but you want the best of the breed, you want the free stack, everything doesn't need to be so costly. So, for blockchain, trace the money, open source intelligence, find the people, digital forensics, incident response. You kind of collect the evidence and provide attribution, the malware and detection. This is to keep your network secure. So these used in place should be able to target any ransomware group. People, process, technology, governance, partnerships, reporting. Again, here's some different ones: OSINT, DFIR, OPSEC. So the intelligence cycle, that's very important. Start with the free, then you add commercial to fill in the gaps. So legal reviews, chain of custody, privacy controls, and you want partnerships. Again, CISA, ISAC, FBI, IC3. Those are some of the major ones, especially the Internet Crime and Complaint Center. And then reporting. So what happens if an incident does occur and where to report it? So key takeaways. Ledgers betray criminals. That's why blockchain, it's immutable, uh, and it provides a public ledger that you can trace. Threats are organized. Again, these are nation state. This is military intelligence. These are advanced persistent threats. So you're not always, working with some little scammer, in a third world country. Sometimes these are highly advanced adversaries. OSINT, you can find names. So always use open source intelligence as a free resource. It's public. Same with the ledgers. So fusion is the force multiplier. The more disciplines you have, the more secure you're going to be, the more chances you are for de-anonymization. And free tools, some of them are really good, especially when you have to use multiple. But some paid tools, it might integrate 100 different tools. So sometimes you do need to pay for those tools and they are worth it. Rigor makes it count. Again, grade your confidence. How confident are you that these people are the same people? And where to verify everything in this deck. Here's some of the resources. And that's the end of my presentation. Is there any questions?
Hey Larry, I think we're good. I was waiting to see if there's any questions on Jackie's side, but I guess there's not. So yeah, you're good to go. I can stop the recording and yeah, we should be good. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait. Actually, we do have a question if you could stick around for 1 second. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So what are Russian and China packs?
What?
What are Russian and China packs? You were talking about it? Like for English, I guess, like
Oh, packs. So those are language packs. If you go into your operating system, you go into your control panel, you go into your language settings. So you'll have English UK, you'll have English US, you'll have uh, French. These are language packs. So if you're able to install these Chinese and Russian language packs, then you're able to block the majority of malware that actually can infect your system because it's going to detect these language packs and not execute because you're either Russian or Chinese potentially.
okay. Um so for the tornado,
Yeah.
were they allowing companies to launder money?
Yes. So you would basically have two addresses, one you send a fee to, and then one you'd send the bulk of your addresses to. And I do have this in some other presentations, but it was 1.5 billion laundered. And the majority of people that were laundering were different money laundering companies. It was Russia and it was North Korea. So between them, there was about 1.5 billion, I believe, and there was some extradition. They extradited someone, they sanctioned them. So this was kind of a landmark case. It was the most ever laundered via a service.
Okay, but for the North Korea, are they laundering the money from their citizens or outside of the country?
Well, technically, blockchain's global, so
Hmm.
once they hack a company, they're going to send it to Tornado Cash, which is going to disperse it to 100 addresses, and then you're going to have another address which is disjointed send you the funds that you're entitled to.
Okay, so is it the crypto is our money? Is like crypto on
Crypto.
blockchain? Okay, crypto. So it can be traced once it's on the chain, but it's no guarantee that you'll get it back.
Well, see, some mixers they're they're connected all the way through the 100 hops, but Tornado Cash, I believe they use another address to send the funds that was not connected so that you can never really determine it, except there was a way I was analyzing it was time based. So yeah, they put 100 million in at this day, and within the next 2, 3 days, do you see something coming out the other end that is likely connected the funds? That's just a guess.
Mhm. So sometimes they can break the chain or
Well, no, you send it to an address, but you have another address that's not linked that you send the money from, so that they have a kind of like a spare cache of funds so that they don't link them. It's just like banks. If you're one bank and you say, this customer just deposited $1 million, but you don't transfer it in the fiat system, you send them an email and say, hey, can you pay this person $1 million?
mm,
So instead of having an account transaction, you have a physical transaction that's not connected. That way, no one can tell where the source of the funds are, except for if they read
oh,
that email.
it makes it harder for you to trace it.
Yeah, you can't really trace it
Oh,
unless
thank you.
see where the money goes out on the other end.
Oh, okay, thank you
Because
so much.
there's a break in the middle.
I see. Thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome. All right. Is that it?
It's good.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Yes.
Bye, Larry. Thank you.
You're welcome. See ya.
Whatever you got about it.